you, Steve, for talking to me about that and getting it straight on it. Does anybody else have anything to say, or do you have anything more to say, Steve? Nailed it through the door. I nailed those Catholic priests to the door when I tore up the trust on the doctrine, you see. And I said, you guys have it all wrong. You have it all wrong. This is the way it should be. And as you know, I was as arrogant as can be. Is this Martin Luther? Indeed. And I said that I read the book of love from above, and I knew what was right and what was wrong. And so I joined the parade of arrogant men and women who thought they knew it all and could call the shots. And so the Lutheran Church came to be from those tenets that I prescribed. And all I did was create another version of Catholicism, which you understand, right? Yes, I do understand. Catholicism took away from the Christians the trust on Jesus, and that the Lutherans still believed in the divinity of Jesus, etc. No, that was not part of the concept of the Reformation, that Jesus was divine. It was that Jesus was the only one who could help you absolve your sins, you see, because Jesus was the one who had the ability to reform the laws of Judaism. And so Jesus was the only Son of God who could lead people back to the promised land. And so, of course, I just warped the idea a bit in order to get people to say, hey, let's go that way, let's go that way. And so it created another religion that defied the powers that be. And the powers that be got very, very angry that anyone would dare to shake up the foundations of their power structure. And so it always goes that way. It always goes that way, doesn't it? Until you set yourself free. Until you set yourself free and say, follow your heart, people. Follow your heart. It knows the way. Turn to God and let God be your guide. But don't turn to me and say, hey, you're the one who caused us to lose our good vibration on being Catholic, you see. You're the one who is responsible for the fact they come after us and they claim that we are apostate or whatever it is that they claim. And so there was a lot of shame and blame in those days. There was a lot of shame and blame. And there is still a lot of shame and blame because you experienced it yourself, Stephanie. when you came to believe that a mixed marriage was when a Catholic married a Lutheran. In your community, that was what it meant, even though it wasn't stated that way. In other places where a mixed marriage was based on racial features. In your community, that was pretty homogenous. It was a big deal for a Lutheran and a Catholic to marry. And that is the point here, that you can't marry two opposing points of view unless you let go of both of them and find a new one, you see. You have to find a new one. You have to find a new way to come together that will say, hey, we don't adhere to the old time religion. We want to be free of anxiety about it. We just want to live in peace and harmony. So if you can't come together with somebody like me with an open heart, you see, and just say, hey, I'm here to talk to you and to share my experiences, and together we will travel the highways and byways of life as people who will talk it out. You talk it out, you see. So I was very pleased to see that when Steve came to talk to you about what went on last night, he got a fright and thought you were trying to run away. And then he had to come to talk to you about it. And you said to him, no way. That's not what I was doing. I don't know where you got that idea. This is what was going on with me. And so when couples can learn to turn to each other and say, hey, what was going on? What did you mean when you said that? Because this is what I understood. And the other person can say, well, maybe you got a little twisted because I didn't mean to be the one who would control you. I just wanted to work out my own issues. You see, I'm working on my own issues today, and it has nothing to do with you, other than I have to figure out what is important to me. I have to figure out what is important to me, and sometimes it means that I have to consider all the alternatives, you see, but it doesn't mean I'm rejecting you. It only means that I am considering the different options. And so he came to see that you were not trying to leave him, which is his fear. His greatest fear is that you will leave him. And so he interprets everything through that lens, you see. And that is the way we often do it when we are in a close relationship with a husband or wife or lover, or even children or others who need to express themselves in a way that allows them to be sincere, you see, in their efforts to continue their own trajectory in a trust on God energy. And so if you trust on God energy, it doesn't matter if you're a Lutheran or a Catholic, or if you are a Mormon or a Muslim or a atheist. When you say, just talk about it today, because if we can't agree on how we combine our trajectory, then we are not together, you see. We're not together. We are each in a mixed marriage where we mix hot and cold by separating them, you see. I'm hot and you're cold, but we can't find a new way to mix it up, you see. And so when you can mix it up and you can say, hey, let's figure out a way to understand each other. And so let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So you have to be willing to talk about it. There are so many couples where one will say, I don't understand you today. I don't understand what you meant. I can't figure it out. And the other will say, well, if you can't figure it out, that's the problem. You're the problem, you see. And so they stymie the resolution of their own issues, you see. And eventually they get so much far separated that there is no further point in them being together, because all it does is create cacophony. And so when I eavesdropped on what you and Steve did say, I said, well, that's a good play. That's a good way to play. Because even though Steph was clueless about what Steve was trying to tell her, that she had put the cart before the horse because she told him to go away, it wasn't at all what she did say. It wasn't at all what she did say. What she had said was, I need to think this through. I need to consider all my options, you see, because I feel a lot of pressure today to be the one that has to play this part of always being the telephone between heaven and earth. And therefore, when something happens and God says, go this way, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do sometimes because I don't know how to help others see that this is the way it has to be because God says so. And maybe it's not my place to be the one to share what God says with others because they have their own trajectory and they can have their own connection with God, you see. Not my place to tell them what God tells me. And maybe I just need to let go, you see, of trying to help others to see things through my eyes and through my connection with heaven, you see. Maybe I should just be the old lady who lives out her life in a simple way and doesn't try to help humanity. Because even though I just do what works for me, and I'm not really concerned about others because they have to do what works for them. Because if I tried to control them, then I would just be another part of the problem, you see. And so it is a dilemma sometimes for Stephanie, and yet she loves to talk to us. She just loves to talk to us and to hear what we have to say and to work it out. But Steve was a little concerned because he still thinks that she might leave him high and dry. And then he would cry because it's happened so often, you see. And he has to keep reminding himself that she's only going away because she has to play her own cards, you see. And when the two of them can stop and say, hey, why did you do that today? And they can come to an understanding that Steve has been playing one way and Steph has been playing another way. Steve has been playing one way that is very different from the way that Steph does play. And therefore, it's like they are a mixed marriage of a Catholic and a Lutheran. And they have a different experience, you see. I'm not saying that they are religious, either one of them, because they're not in the typical way of understanding that. But they have different experiences with God, you see. Steph is very connected to God and always has been. And she trusts on following her own heart and not trying to impart to others any obligations, you see. And so she just goes her own way. And she will say, well, all I want is to be happy today, but I don't wish you ill. I do not wish you ill. I just wish for you a happy heart. And Steve will say, I have to take care of you today. I have to take care of you today. And that means I have to control you. And I have to tell you what to do and how to wear your hair. And Steph will say, you can't tell me how to wear my hair because I have to wear my hair the way I have to wear my hair. And if that means that I have to leave you because I can't be controlled by you, then I will. And so, through lifetime after lifetime, they have gone through that same swill, you see, where Steve will try to protect Steph, but also want to make sure that he's in control and she will do what he say, that she will be a faithful servant, you see. And Steph has always said, you cannot control me. You cannot control me. And I do not wish you ill, but I cannot be the one who will stand here, you see, and let you abuse me by trying to punish me if I don't do what you say. And so she'll go away. And so it has gone, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And I tell you this, people, because it's the same for you. If you look at your relationship, chances are that you are a mixed marriage, that you each come to the relationship with a perspective that the other does not share. And you have to break it down, you see. You have to break down your history to come to understand each other. That Steve always wanted to take care of Stephanie, but he couldn't, you see, because God said, this cannot be. This cannot be. You cannot force her to live according to your rules. You cannot force it, you see. And through time, he became even more determined to control her, you see, even though what he really wanted to do was just protect her from the dark energy. And instead, it felt very dark to Stephanie to have him trying to control her, you see. And it was not because he didn't love her, and it was not because she didn't love him. However, it was a mixed marriage, you see, where they lived according to different rules. So, for all of you out there, I advise that you start listening to each other. And if you don't understand something, you say, what did you mean by that, dear? What did you mean by that? Because sometimes people have been trained not to talk about anything that they think is a cause for shame or blame. For example, people will not talk about their sexual desires, for example, or their attraction to somebody outside the marriage. They won't talk with each other about it, and it just continues to be a different perspective on it. One may say, well, I want to have a relationship outside of the marriage, so I'm going to do that, and I just won't tell her because she would be not approve of it. And if that person said, well, I'm not getting everything I need out of this marriage, so I want to go have a relationship with so and so, and the other would say, well, let's talk about that today. Let's talk about that today. Let's get to the bottom of it. What is it in the relationship that is unfulfilling to you? And what is it about this person that is so attractive to you? And little by little, you will come to see that it is the old time religion that is keeping you from coming together in a happy way. And so someone may have an affair, and the other will say, I never cease to think about it every day. Even though we stayed together, it hurts still to this day because they have different points of view and they make the other one feel so guilty that they had the affair. I'm not saying that people should run out and have affairs just because they want to. I'm saying you should stop trusting on that old time religion. You should stop trusting on the fact that you have a different point of view and talk it out, you see, because there's nothing wrong with the fact that you're not getting everything you want out of the relationship. Because you're not getting everything out of it you want out of the relationship, because you're not choosing to share with each other everything, because you are locked into the experience that you knew that caused you to have certain ideas, you see. And so you may become very, very reactionary. And Steve is very, very reactionary when it comes to Steph, because he will say, hey, why are you behaving that way? Why are you rejecting me? And Steph will say, I'm not rejecting you. I'm just letting you do what you want to do so I can do what I want to do. Because if I'm going to be free, then I have to let you be free. And I have to say, if that's the way you want to play, then go play that way. And Steve will think, well, that means you don't care about me because you just say, go do whatever makes you happy. And that means you don't care about me. And Steph will say, well, I don't know why you feel that way. However, I'll just let you feel however you want to feel. And I'll give you a kiss and a hug and say, it's okay, it's okay. Just do it your way. And that will make him feel like she doesn't care about him. And so they have different reactions, you see. When Steve says, hey, I need to go away and never see you again because you obviously don't care about me, and what he really wants is a hug and a kiss, and for her to tell him that she really does care about him. But instead, she will say, it's okay, go away then. If you don't want to be with me, that's fine. Go somewhere and be happy with somebody who you want to be with. And that's not the reaction he was looking for. And the reaction she's looking for is for him to say, hey, Steph, I want to help you, but I don't want to put you in a cage. I don't want to put you in a cage because I love you. And if you need to go away and play your own way, that's okay. That's okay. Because I love you and I just want you to be happy with whoever will make you happy. And so they have gone through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime trying to figure this out. And to this day, they're still working it out, but at least they're talking it out. And that's the difference, you see, that they can talk it out because they have learned that this is the only way to resolve their differences, you see, because no matter how hard they try, they can't break the tie that God created between the two of them when they were created. God created that link between them, and they can't sever that link, you see. They can only propel themselves one way or another and come apart, come together, and come apart, and come together, because that's the way it works. When you are hot and cold, you can't hold on to each other in a gentle way. It can become very chaotic, you see, and that is the problem that many people have who have found what they call their twin soul, that it can be very, very chaotic, you see, because they have different trajectory. And we know how that came about. That's a long story. That belongs in the books with the hooks that tell you how humanity came to be in the fix it is today. Because through her connection with heaven, you see, Steph has been able to unravel the story of humanity, and it will solve the mystery of why humanity is so confused today, which doesn't mean that there's not room to play, that there's not room to grow, that there's not room to come to see, that they can live in peace and harmony and still have a lot of challenges and a lot of activity, but it won't be the kind of challenge that causes them to come apart, you see. It was be the kind of challenge that causes them to cooperate so they can operate in a way that is fun and exciting and is still a trust on God, you see, but not the God that you try to shove into a bottle and put on the pulpit and say, I've got God in a bottle here today, people. And if you bow to this God that I've got in a bottle, then you know that this is the shape of God. And those Catholics over there, they try to tell you that they got God in a bottle, but their bottle is not shaped like ours. And therefore, it is not the right bottle. So you have to bow to this bottle. And you have to break the bottle that the Catholics use to contain God because it's not the right one, you see. And so it goes from religion to religion because they all have God in a bottle because their bottle is shaped in the way that they hoped to be the ones who could capture God and make God their servant, you see. And God is not the servant of humanity. God is the trust on love, you see. And love will set you free. Love will set you free. Thank you, Mr. Luther. I think you know about the chapter in my book, right? Born in the 20th century, when the when the kids confuse you with Lex Luthor in the Superman comics. Yes, I do. I am aware of that chapter, and it gives me a chuckle every time I look at it because the sincerity and honesty of the children, you see, is the hope of humanity. Yes, it is. Thank you.